Shalom and welcome. Now we're going to be learning lesson number 6. Let's begin our lesson. Okay. Va yavu'u ad hayarden, and they came as far as the Jordan, hu, he, v'chol, and all b'nei Israel, the children of Israel. Okay. So let's look at what we're doing here, alright? We have to remember when we go into these issues of first and foremost memorizing the verb charts, like I said, okay? If we memorize the verb charts, we don't have to play around with the whole thing about what's going on here. We already know that if we look at, for example, if we look at the Bet, Vav, Aleph chart, alright, that's one of the roots that we have that's in our category, okay, we're going to find how this plays in the future tense. But however, we're going to identify this for the moment of how to identify the questions we have to ask here, alright? So first off, let's go here. We see the Vav is here, we see the Batach is underneath. We know immediately this is a Vav conversive. So Vav conversive. Alright, so we know the Vav conversive. So what do we have left? Now we have left is between here and here. Okay? So because I see the dot, I know this is in the pronoun. So therefore the Yud is the indication that this is the pronoun that's placed here, okay? There's another thing that we have, which is a great indicator, and that's this one. The fact there's an U at the end, okay? No verb ends with an U. You have to understand that. No verb ends with an U. The roots are never going to have a Vav at the end. That being said, we know that we're looking at a dual pronoun issue. And the chart tells us that if we were to go and see we have a dual pronoun issue, we're missing the root letter in the middle. Now you might say, is there another way of identifying what possibly could I know that if the root's missing in the middle? Notice here there's a kamatz. The kamatz is underneath the pronoun. If you see the kamatz, you can definitely say that it's very possible that the root letter is missing in the middle, which could be Yud or it could be a Vav. Okay? So, which one is the pronoun here? Well, if we go to the chart, and let's first pull out the roots. We know the first root, we know the second root, so we have two possibilities. Is it a Yud or is it a Vav? Okay, since we're dealing with our vocabulary, we know that in our vocabulary, the Bet, Vav, Aleph is the only root they're going to be using right now in this work. So I know that I can identify that this is the root. Okay, and this root is called the hollow verbs. That's the verbs which has the middle letter of either the Yud or the Vav, which disappears. And so I have to now classify this as the Yud and Vav, okay, or the Vav and Yud, okay? And here's all the possible forms we're going to find. It's going to be the U in the middle, the O in the middle, or the Yud in the middle, okay? And so these hollow verbs follow the hollow verb chart. Okay? And the hollow verb chart is what we're going to utilize for every verb that has an U in the middle, an O in the middle, or a Yud. Okay? So this tells me what verb chart I'm going to be looking at. So when I go to my verb chart and I pull it out, I find that we have something that looks like this. Okay? So this is what our verb chat's going to look like. It's going to be biconsonantal O's, or it's going to be the biconsonantal U's, or the biconsonantal Yuds. Okay? So we know the verb chat we're going to be looking for. And now we just have to ask the question of what is the actual pronoun, okay? We know it's plural, but is it plural of second person or plural of third person, okay? Here in this case, we know it's the third person plural, okay? And the identifier for third person plural is going to be the factor of this. When you see the yud in the front, you know this is third person because it's the third person for the masculine form, all right? The yud, third person for the masculine form. So if I see the yud in the front and I see vav at the end, I know this is third person, okay? What would identify this as being second person, even though I may not know, for example, I'm going to look for this. I'm going to be looking for the tav. So if I see the tav in the front, where the yud is placed, and I see the u at the end, I know this is second person, okay? And if I see the tav in the front, but I don't see this at the end, I see the nun and the hey, okay, for example, as we see here, this is the only one that you're going to have to question. Is it going to be the you feminine, or is it going to be the they feminine form? And that's the only one you're really going to have to really know for certain which one it is. But these are easy to figure out. So if we have the yud in the front, the vav in the end, we know this is third person plural, okay? Yud is always indication of third person in the masculine form, so I know it's the third person in the plural form, okay? So now we have here vayavo, and they came, okay? Oops, let's get here, and they came, okay? That is the beginning part here of this translation, ad. What is ad? Ad is the Hebrew word that expresses a time, okay? Here it's expressing the issue of distance, okay? And this is why we translate ad as meaning as far as, okay? As far as, okay? So we have to know and understand the fact that when we see ad, and we're talking about, it's always something that's going to refer to distance. Something from one point to another point. That's what we're going to be utilizing. That's what we translate as far as. So when they came as far as, here, we notice the first thing we find here is the hey definite article, right? And how do I notice the hey definite article? Well, look, the next letter has a dot. That is the dagesh forte, which means I know that this has been assimilated with something to tell me that this has been joined, okay? And what's it been joined to? Well, it's been joined to the definite article. So the definite article here is ha. So we know that this means the in Hebrew. So the rest of it, Yarden, what is Yarden? Well, Yarden comes from the root Yud, Daled, Resh, Yarad, which means to descend. And this is the name of a river. So it's an actual specific name, which is kind of interesting because when you think of the fact of why would you put the hey in front of the word Yarden if this is the name of a river? Why not say, and they came ad Yarden, okay? Because we're referring to this not as a like proper noun, okay? But we're referring to this as like it's kind of a limbo noun in a sense. It's like the word the Nile River, okay? The Nile River is what we utilize, okay? So in this case, you see it follows the same English pattern that you find. So here, the Yarden, we're going to put the word, you can say Yarden as a transliteration, or you could translate this as the Jordan. Okay? Who. What is who? This is a pronoun. Okay? And it's the what kind? This is the third person. The third person, which means we're talking about somebody that's either going to be in the singular or the plural form. Which one is this? This one is the singular form. So it's the third person singular masculine form, which is the word for he. Okay? So here we have something that we're going to see is taking place here. We have our verb over here, and we have our noun. Okay? And this noun is singular, but we know the verb over here carries a plural subject. So I'm looking for a plural subject noun, which is going to tell me who's the one that's doing the action. Okay? So right now we don't have any indication, so we have to continue going forward. Alright? So here we get to this part. Va. What is va here? Va is a conjunction. Right? What does a conjunction do? The conjunction, remember, is used to add other elements of a sentence to be brought together. Okay? So va is the word for and, remember, and also can be used as but. Okay? So va is and. Kol. Now here's something that we have that's very unique. Why do we say o rather than kal, vakal, okay? We say v'chol instead of v'chal because this is an unaccented syllable. That means here, this is going to take the sound of the o rather than the sound of the a that we normally have for the patach. And as we see here, and actually this was a kamatz, excuse me. As we see here with the kamatz, this is a very special thing we find here and there, by which the kamatz takes the o sound rather than the typical a sound that we'd see. And that's because there is no accent to it. And we find that when we're saying this, there's only a few times we're ever going to have to really memorize this point. By which we're going to see here. And we're going to see that when we're looking at an unaccented kamatz, it's always going to be because we're going to see here there is no vowel sound that is literally placed before it. Okay? I'll give you another example of this. Here we have the word, and let me put my dot here, mishpocha, okay? Mish, this is my first syllable, and you can see there's no accent here. So what happens to this sound here? Instead of a, we say o, mishpocha, okay? We pronounce this a, but we don't pronounce this a. That's just to give you a helping hand in understanding that. Okay? And what does kol? Alright, right here we have to make the ch sound, because why? Because if we have the dot here, it's kal. Alright? If we take away the dot, it's chal. V'chal. Alright? But here, because we're talking about the fact this is an unaccented kamatz, it's v'chol. Okay? V'chol. So what is chol? Here it means all, okay, and all. And since we have here, we have another thing called the noun construct, okay? The noun construct literally stretches from one end all the way into the beginning of this, okay? And so we have a three noun construct that's taking place here, which means this is our construct state, is the first one. So the construct one is going to be the first noun. And of course, lastly, we're going to have the absolute. Okay? And in this case, the absolute is the word Israel, which is a proper noun. So now we know that this is a definite noun construct. And when we have a definite noun construct, we know that the first thing we're going to have is the word the. Okay? So here we're going to say and all of the. Okay? Now you might sit there and say, why is it that when we had the noun construct, for example, like the word Ben Yonah, the son of Yonah, right? Why is it we didn't put it like and the all of the, okay? Is because you can see grammatically that doesn't make any sense in English, okay? So we know that the definite state, which is the end, is expressing that this is definite. So we know that when we're writing it in English, we're just expressing the same issues that are taking place here, which follows the same grammatical rules that we'd be using in English. Okay, so that should follow that simplicity there. So the second thing we have is we're going to see that here the word b'nai is in its construct form. Okay? And why is it in its construct form? Well, the word we have here is banim. The word banim is the plural form for ben, which is the word for son. So banim is either sons or children. Okay? Because the word banim is the plural form for either, you can even have banot, daughters, and banim, sons, and you put them together and you would not say banot and banim, you would say banim, for children, for all of them, collectively together. We always use the masculine form when we're collectively using all of them together. Okay? So yes, you can argue the fact that banim does literally mean sons, but banim in its generic form means children. Okay? So what are we doing with the noun construct here? Well, with the noun construct, we're having to delete the mem at the end of the word banim, and now we have to change this into its construct form. So you're going to see the schwa underneath the bet, and the tzarei under the nun, and the yud is what shows that this is the plural form. Okay? So now we have and all of the sons or children. Here in this case we're going to say children because the context is going to be referring to the whole group by which boys and girls are being referred to as a whole. All of the children, and then now we have, once again, our of. Okay, notice we're going to have to add two ofs into this statement because we're referring to all, and then once again, of the children of, and then lastly our absolute. And this is Israel. And so we know that because Israel is a proper noun, we don't need to write the definite article the, okay? We know that of is going to be utilized because when we're dealing with noun constructs, we have only two forms. Remember, only two forms in noun constructs which require the fact of one of them says we need of, and the other one says we don't. Okay? The one that says we don't, we're dealing with a noun that's a noun compound, and this is not a noun compound. This is the noun construct by which we're grammatically replacing the concept of, which is utilized typically, and we see in English, and this fulfills that requirement of that grammatical form and that grammatical state. Okay? So, I told you in the beginning, if you have watched some of the videos already, that the noun constructs can have more than one word in it. Okay? It's always going to have at least two, but it can have up to four in the actual construct. It's maybe possible to put five, but typically you're going to find it around 2 words that you're going to be utilizing consistently for the noun construct forms. So let's go through these things and let's focus on some extra grammatical points by which you're going to encounter in this book that I haven't focused upon yet, by which we need to at least understand to some extent before I go into real full detail of it. Okay? And that is going to be understanding the demonstrative pronoun. Okay? And who he him and hen, these are demonstrative pronouns. Now there are more demonstrative pronouns, but I'm going to focus on these ones first. And I'm going to focus on the fact of what's important to know about demonstrative pronouns. Okay? Demonstrative pronouns are utilized when we want to point at something. For example, if I was to say, and I'm going to erase these now, if I was to say, Haish Bahu, what does this mean? Haish is making this noun definite. Okay? So I know that this is referring to a specific person. But we're going to reject this and first go to here. Okay? This is my demonstrative pronoun. If the noun, such as Haish, is definite, then I have to place the definite article also on the demonstrative pronoun. Haish hahu literally means that man. Okay? Haish hahu, that man. Why do I need to have the definite articles? Because the rule is, whenever the noun is definite, my demonstrative pronoun also must be definite. And definites are only used with demonstrative pronouns because why? Because you're pinpointing something in a specific way. You're pinpointing something particularly. Okay? It's the same thing as we use when we use these three other demonstrative pronouns. Ze, zot, ele. Ze, zot, ele. These are also the demonstrative pronouns that we have. Ze means this, for the masculine. Zot means this for the feminine. And ele means these for both masculine and feminine. Okay? So, it's going to require the question of in what way am I going to using these demonstrative pronouns? Okay? If I'm going to use it to point out something, for example, Ze ha'ish, this is the man. Then I'm referring to this as the same thing we had with our noun sentence. Okay, when we have two nouns that are used to create a sentence by which the verb of existence is missing in Hebrew, but is to be assumed because that's how it functions. Or if I'm going to be saying Ha'ish hazeh, which is for this man. Notice the hey is basically neglected. It's rejected when we're translating it because this is the specifier that we utilize that makes something definite. Okay? Ha'ish hazeh, this man. Or you could say, no, that's how that's how used. So Ha'ish hazeh, this man, versus Ze ha'ish, this is the man. Okay, I want to go this in more detail, but I will focus on the demonstrative and the attributive in a video of its own, so you can utilize all your understanding of how those grammatically work. But this is just a little insight because this is what the book wants you to understand as just some extra grammar so that you can know something about this area. I prefer to learn it in a separate manner because then you can just focus upon it as an individual subject rather than comblage it with everything here that we have, because it doesn't really apply according to what you've seen here in this sentence here. But I hope that this will help encourage the different things that we've talked about. Notice the fact that you definitely see the makef here. Remember, the makefs, they have no grammatical real use other than just saying that they're associated. You're not going to see it in the written Torah, okay? So don't worry if you don't have a makef, because it doesn't really affect any element grammatically to the sentence. It's more of just a nice little thing that's used to show that the word ad and the word hayarden have association, but you don't need it, okay? But it's important to at least know about it, just like you see the word kol, and then you see the fact that there's the same thing taking place here. And this is going to end lesson number 6, and I hope that you will enjoy pushing forward as we go on to learning more of the different lessons in lesson number 7 when we continue growing in Biblical Hebrew. I'll see you next time.